Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I wanted to talk about something that's really interesting. It's interesting to everybody I've talked to about it. So um, I'm not the only one who thinks it's interesting, but I have a background in Lean Six Sigma, which comes out of the manufacturing world. And I started seeing everything through that lens. Like once you see it, you can't unsee it. And you tend to apply it to every process that you do in your life. So that's how I ended up in this place of doing Lean Six Sigma manufacturing minded marketing for my clients. My company is Barracuda B2B Marketing. And what I wanted to say is, what is Barracuda B2B Marketing? No, it is not the Heart song, although I do love that song. It'll go through your head now. You'll never forget it. No, it is not the car created in the 1960s by Plymouth, but the way Barracuda came about is actually from a client of mine. He said to me one day, with all love and respect, Gina, you are an absolute Barracuda. He said, you just get on it, you get it done, you stay on track, you're so time managed, so organized, and I'm all over the place. And if it weren't for you, this project never would have gotten done because you were a force of nature in bringing it to the finish line. So that was a client when I was with a consulting company. And so when I went to form my own consulting company, I agonized for weeks. What am I going to name my company? What am I going to name my company? And I just kept coming back to this Barracuda. And it makes a really cool logo too. So I actually formed my consulting company last September in 2023. I was working full time for a manufacturer. So after that, I ended up going on my own at the end of May and starting to build my consulting business to go full time. So I love to let people know who's talking to you. I'm not just a marketing, manufacturing minded marketer. Um, this is me as a person. Some little snippets in this word doodle about who I am and what I do. I love to connect with people on a personal level. So sometimes when you go into a networking group, you find out, oh, both of you own horses, or both of you are into the arts, and it really makes for a richer, stronger networking connection. So if any of you are interested in any of the things on this slide, let's talk about them. So here's what I'm here to do today, though. Let's get into the nitty gritty. And as far as questions go, um, if you have a burning question that you're afraid you're going to forget, by all means, raise your hand or just jump in and interrupt me. I'm not formal, but I will leave time at the end for a Q&A. This will not take the whole hour. So I'm here today to really talk about how to revolutionize marketing with Lean Six Sigma. And it's not just marketing that can be revolutionized. I mean, even in your financial processes, you can take Lean Six Sigma and apply them to streamline almost any process. But what I tell people when I'm talking to them about marketing, especially manufacturers, I work really primarily with manufacturing and industrial companies. I find without exception, their marketing efforts are usually falling short. They're not seeing a return on investment. They're not getting the results they hoped for. And so when that happens, a lot of times they get disillusioned about marketing and they think it's a cost center rather than a revenue generator, instead of being taught that they're not doing it the right way. Because these marketing agencies, I tell you, I'm a marketer. These marketing agencies rob people blind. They take money, provide a gross disservice, provide this cookie cutter out of the box solution. They don't really understand the industry. They don't understand the pain points. And so people start to think that marketing is not worthwhile. And I'm finding, even especially in this economy, you all know what's going on right now. Manufacturing is in a recession, high inflation, election year, and now we've got supply chain disruptions because of the strikes with the longshoremen at the ports. It's chaos again in manufacturing. So what are they doing? They're sitting on their money. They're sitting on their budgets, which is the wrong approach to take, because in a downturn, you need to be ahead of the pack so that when you go through the upturn, you're ahead and you're ready to hit the ground running. So I talked to them about applying Lean Six Sigma methodology to marketing to do just that. So I show of hands, how many people here know what Lean Six Sigma is? Anybody? Okay, we got a couple. Couple, good. Okay, good, because I don't want to bore everybody. If everybody is a Lean Six Sigma practitioner and you all know what it is, then I could skip a couple slides. But for those who don't, I don't want to lose you because you're scratching your head wondering what I'm talking about. So Lean is a combination of two methodologies. There's Lean and there's Six Sigma. And so Lean is about waste reduction and Six Sigma is about process improvement. So when you combine them together, you improve processes to reduce waste. So I'm not going to go through all the words on these slides, but the way that you can apply Lean Six Sigma to marketing strategy, I'm going to get into a little bit deeper. But like any process, you can enhance efficiency and get better results by streamlining and optimizing and improving what you're doing and the way that you're doing it. So I'm going to give you a really distilled down, oversimplified example of Lean Six Sigma. And this doesn't include the methodology. It doesn't include all the charts and graphs and data and analytics. But the way I can make it understandable to people who aren't from manufacturing and don't understand this methodology. Think about if you ever had a pet, you had a dog or a cat. I currently have two kittens that I had to lock out of the room because they were trying to pull my equipment off my desk. It's late in the day here. I've ignored them all day and they were acting out because they wanted attention. So I see Lean Six Sigma and can't unsee it. So one day I'm going to feed my kittens. And I did it the way I always do it. I mean, it's the way everybody does it, right? You go to the carpet where your food bowls are, you pick them up, you take them to the counter. You go to the closet, you pull out the bag of food, you take it to the counter. You scoop out some food, fill the bowl, take the bowl back to the carpet, go back to the counter, get the bag of cat food, and go back to the cupboard and put it in the cupboard or the closet. Well, one day I was doing that and the light bulb went off. I was like, dummy, take the bowl to the closet and fill it from the bag, or take the bag to the bowl and fill it from the bag. Cut out the counter. You don't need to make all these extra steps back and forth because I don't wash the dry food bowl every single day. I don't have to take it to the counter. So that's an example of how I saw it in my life. Then I gave this presentation once and my mom watched it. And one day my mom calls me. She was in the treasury department at Sherwin-Williams. She was a cash and banking manager there for 35 years. So she doesn't understand marketing or Lean Six Sigma. And she calls me one day and she says, Gina, I'm Lean Six Sigmaing my kitchen. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, I have all these pots and pans in the stove, in the oven where I store them. And then I've got this cupboard where I store all my other pots and pans. Well, the ones in the cupboard are ones that I use maybe once a year to bake the lasagna at Christmas or to make a certain kind of cake. She said, but every time I go to use the oven, I have to take all these pots and pans out of the oven, do all my baking, wait for the oven to cool down, put all the pots and pans back in the oven. She said, and it went off like a light bulb. She said, I looked at myself and I was like, dummy, take the ones you never use down to the basement and store them down there because you only take them out once a year. Put all the ones in the oven into the cupboard, and now you don't have to take pots and pans in and out of your oven. So that's an example of how this presentation helped my mom at home in her kitchen. It can be done. Even if she can do it, anybody can do it. So I wanted to talk about the belt system. Lean Six Sigma is based on the karate system. So you have belts, just like in karate, a white belt, a yellow belt, a green belt, a black belt, a master black belt. I have my yellow and green belts and I'm working on my black belt now. So the black belt is the highest that you can get. The difference between a black belt and a master black belt is that a master black belt usually runs a facility and manages all the belts beneath him. So he might have green belts and yellow belts and other black belts who report to him. So he's the master black belt because he has other Lean Six Sigma practitioners reporting to him. I'm only a black belt because I don't have anybody with Lean Six Sigma training reporting to me. So that's what the belts mean. And each belt, you learn a lot more and you can do a lot more with them. So here's what the different belts are, and it tells you a little more information. You don't have to go in order. Like you could actually just go get a black belt, or you could go just get a green belt. I never did a white belt. After what you learn from here now, you'd probably be considered a white belt. It's basic knowledge. So Lean Six Sigma is all about the process. And so what I like to talk about is, now that you know what Lean Six Sigma is, how do we do marketing process optimization? So the next slide is going to tell you a little bit more about that. And what I use from Lean Six Sigma in my marketing is an acronym from Lean Six Sigma called DMAIC. And DMAIC is D, define, M, measure, A, analyze, I, improve, C, control. So all it is about is this process, which we do in almost every process we do, even in your day jobs. You probably define a scope of a project. You set goals, you set KPIs, you then measure your data. Then you analyze your data and look at what's the root cause. How can I identify opportunities to improve this process? Then you improve it. And that's where the problem is. A lot of times people stop there in step 4. They say, okay, I've improved the process. It's done. It's better. Everything's good and okay. Let's move on to another process. Let's move on to another project. But the biggest key step in Lean Six Sigma is the control phase, making sure that you constantly monitor your improvements and make sure your process remains optimized. Because even look at it in our own lives. How often do we go through 1 through 4 and then fall off the wagon? We decide, oh, we want to lose weight. It's the new year. We're going to set a resolution. Oh, how much weight do we need to lose? Oh, what's it going to take us to lose that weight? How many calories can we eat? How much exercise do we need? Okay, we went to the gym, we improved the process, we lost the weight, and then what happens? We gain the weight back because we stop improving the process and we don't do that control phase. So once we control the process and optimize it, then we manage the waste. So that, like I said, the goal is optimize the process and remove waste. Not this kind of waste, not the waste in a landfill, but here are the 4 kinds of wastes. So think about your daily life at work or at home. We waste time, we waste resources, we waste time doing rework, redoing things, and we waste resources with defects. So the goal in waste elimination is, how do we eliminate time-consuming activities? AI is starting to do a lot of that. We spent a lot of time doing manual processes that are now being automated by AI. That's a huge example of a waste eliminator, a time waste eliminator. It's also a resource eliminator. We now can do more with one person than we could before. So maybe we save someone 20 hours a week in their job by automating things, and then they can do more or do other kinds of work. So we also save on resources. Rework is about making mistakes. So how many times have we made a mistake in our job and we've had to redo something because it wasn't done right the first time? And then defects, that's one that I want to address with Lean Six Sigma. That's what Six Sigma means. In a manufacturing process, it means that you are only allowed 3.4 defects per million. Imagine that 1 million actions that you take, you only make 3.4 mistakes in 1 million things that you do in your lifetime. That's very few. And so I tell people, say there's a company that manufactures teddy bears. They manufacture 1 million teddy bears, only 3.4 of those can have an eye sewed on wrong, some stuffing sticking out, some crooked stitching. So that's the goal of Lean Six Sigma, is actually to get to that minimum of defects. So with marketing, I tell people marketing is a long game. It is something sustainable. Marketing is not sales, it is relationships. It is bringing people into the top of funnel, nurturing them, and then converting them. And what I notoriously find in manufacturing, manufacturers tend to be bottom of funnel organizations. They are sell, sell, sell. And then what inevitably happens is the bottom of funnel taps out. Oh, sales doesn't have any more leads. We have no one else to quote. We're out of cash. We have nothing converting, no sales coming in. What do? They go to marketing desperate to generate leads. Well, by that time, it's too late. You should have been filling your funnel the whole time and nurturing those leads so that the bottom of funnel never taps out. An example in my own company, I do marketing for my own business. I've got a list of 20,000 manufacturers that I have on hand. I do drip campaigns to them 500 at a time. So I take 500 people, put them into a 6-week nurture sequence. I email them every Tuesday for 6 weeks with thought leadership articles, how to apply Lean Six Sigma methodology to marketing process, how to use a SWOT analysis to inform your marketing strategy, how to create buyer personas for manufacturers. And then I establish myself as a subject matter expert, build trust. For me, what I do, I'm getting huge open rates and click-through rates. I'm getting like 33% open rates, 19 to 25% click-through rates. No one subscribes, no spam reports, which is huge. Then after that 6-week sequence, I pop them into my CRM. I email them personally a couple times, and then I put in a warm call. Oh, and I send a LinkedIn connection request to them, and then I put in a warm call to them. So I'm not cold calling. By the time I call them, they've been warmed up for months. They've seen me multiple times. They know who I am. They've even heard my, they've seen my LinkedIn profile, my background, my job history. So marketing is sustainable if it's done properly. And a lot of times manufacturers are going to the end of the process. They're like, we need to do lead generation. They're not going to the beginning of the process and creating a strategy and implementing that methodically. And when I talk to them through a frame of Lean Six Sigma. So I say to them, for example, if you dreamed up a new product you wanted to manufacture tomorrow, would you get up in the morning and go on your shop floor and start making it? No. You would put the people, the process, the pricing, the research, everything in place to set yourself up for success. Why would you then set me up for failure by going to the end of the process and wanting to do lead generation before you've done all the other work that is going to make your lead generation successful and sustainable? And then the light bulb goes off. It's like that aha moment. So Lean Six Sigma is about these 4 things: always making data-driven decisions, always having an attitude of continuous improvement, constant collaboration and communication, and customer-centric. Lean Six Sigma is not about what's in it for me. It's how do I optimize these processes to make my customer happier, to make them more satisfied, to streamline things, to make it easier for them. So on this slide, as you've probably already read while I talked, you can do these things in marketing to also achieve these 4 goals of Lean Six Sigma. So I always tell people, in the same way, that we start at the beginning, a process is a process, and a process has to be strategic. So usually when people don't, that's when they're seeing the lack of return on investment and that perception of marketing not being effective. So I tell people the process is the key to success. And as I said, marketing strategy is where you start. Start at the beginning, not the end. Set your goals, your objectives. Remember DMAIC? The D in DMAIC, define. Defining is the strategy. So that's step 1. And that's how DMAIC applies to a marketing strategy and a marketing process. Marketing strategies usually encompass these things. I don't know if you work with your marketing folks in your businesses, or you may finance them and allocate budget for them. But most typical marketers do these things. I do these things. All these points are necessary in a marketing strategy. But because of Lean Six Sigma, And because of my 30 years of manufacturing experience, I do things a little bit differently. I do things that marketers don't do. So I love to be different. I'm not a goldfish, but I am a barracuda in a big sea of other kinds of fish. So here's what I do different. When I go into an organization, I immediately assess the sales team. And if your marketing and your sales teams are not working together, they're set up for failure. And inevitably, they always are working at cross purposes and in silos. They need to be in lockstep, because marketing is only as good as the sales and vice versa. If I generate a ton of leads, qualified leads that don't convert and close, is it marketing that's not successful, or is it the salespeople don't know how to convert and close? So I do a sales assessment. I look at your playbook, your sales process, your cycle, your timeline, and also your training. In manufacturing facilities, notoriously, the salespeople come up from the shop floor. They're often machinists, engineers who are technically brilliant, but they haven't had the sales training to learn how to convert and close deals. I need to address that pain point. That's the thing about Lean Six Sigma versus traditional marketing. Marketers don't look at that. They don't care about the rest of the organization. They're looking at the marketing. I look at the organization holistically, because every area of your company is going to affect the marketing strategy. Another thing that I do is voice of customer work, where I'll interview the customers to find out, which will also inform the SWOT analysis. What are our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, our threats? What is our perception on the market that I need to overcome or enhance or maintain? I just did voice of customer work for a client of mine and interviewed about 20 of their customers to do some primary market research to find out, what did they like about the company? What did they think could be improved? And then what products does that company not offer that they would like to be in their service offering, that they would like to see that company provide, either a product or service that that company could provide to round out their service offering. That's not typical of a marketing strategist or a fractional CMO. I also do competitive analysis. Marketers say they do, but all they look at is keywords. They go into a tool, look at what are your competitors ranking for as far as keywords and bidding on, and how do we compete against them. I look at how are they positioned in the marketplace, how are they going to market. I analyze all their tech stacks, and that SWOT analysis, of course, is important in manufacturing. The last thing I'm rounding out here, the last areas I want to cover are really customer service. I said that earlier about how Lean Six Sigma focuses on outcomes, on how is the customer impacted or affected. And so most marketers in smaller organizations don't address this. They think, oh, that's sales or that's customer service. But I am a specialist in search engine optimization, which is organic search. I've worked for little companies. I work for the little guys. They are in my heart. I want to help them grow. I want to help them succeed. So I usually work with manufacturers that are 50 million or less, usually 100 people or less. At that scale, they don't have an in-house CMO. They usually don't even have a marketing department. And so what I find historically is that they don't have a direct line to the customer to get feedback. It's either the customer loves them and keeps buying from them, so that's how you know they love you, or the customer hates you and doesn't buy from you, but you don't know why. And so the other thing is, with search engine optimization, the small companies I've worked for don't have big budgets. So how do you get the most bang for no buck? That's organic search. So organic search is just getting Google to index and rank you so that you can be found in a Google search through things that are free, rather than pay-per-click and paying for advertising. So without doing Google ads, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, how can we drive traffic to our website to get our customers to us? And so one of the things Google loves is reviews. Google reviews, especially because Google owns Google reviews, but they also troll the whole index of the entire internet and look at Bing reviews and Yelp reviews and Foursquare reviews, and that factors pretty highly into their algorithm. So if I'm an SEO expert, most marketing companies train companies to believe that SEO only has to do with the website, that it's keywords, front end and back end of your website. You're done. Google's going to find you. Your customers are going to find you. No, they're not. There's so much more involved in SEO. There's claiming local listings, listings like Google My Business, ThomasNet, IndustryNet, all the free listings you can claim out there that Google sees, oh, they're linked from here and linked from here and linked from there. Also getting backlinks. So I contribute content to trade associations, trade publications, and from their website, they'll link back to my website, and that increases my ranking with Google. Social media increases your ranking. Google owns YouTube. So even if not a lot of people watch your videos, the fact that you have regular videos on your YouTube channel, Google loves that. They're like, oh, they have video. Let's give them some points. So that's why I mention all of this in SEO, because the customer reviews factor pretty highly. So I do something called a net promoter score. You've all taken one. You get that email from your car dealership on a scale of 1 to 10. How did we do in customer service? How did we do in pricing? How did our showroom look? Well, a net promoter score on the back end is that if they get an 8 or above, you're satisfied. If they get a 7 or below, you're a dissatisfied customer. So the 8s or aboves, you should always ask for Google reviews. Hey, you're a happy customer. Would you leave us a review online? We'd really appreciate your 5-star review. If they're a 7 or below, there's an opportunity. There's that SWOT analysis. Reach out to them. What did we do wrong? How can we fix it? We'll bend over backwards to take care of you. In doing that as a marketer, I actually have saved tens of thousands of dollars in clients, where an unhappy client who hated us came back to us and became a satisfied client because we reached out and we turned it around and we fixed what was broken and we showed them we were dedicated. We showed we cared about them. We listened to them. So again, it goes back to that communication and collaboration piece. It's all connected. So now the last thing I want to talk about before I wrap up, and honestly, this is my last slide other than my closing slides with my information. Lean Six Sigma, I told you, once you see it, you can't unsee it. So in addition to marketing, I did something else. I formed this consortium of service partners in the manufacturing industry that can provide full suite services to manufacturers. The way this came about is because of Lean Six Sigma. I was sitting in all these networking meetings, and I was looking around and seeing one thing everybody had in common, everything all of us in the room have in common. We all do process improvements for our companies, our clients, or our companies we work for. Then I saw them shake out into 2 buckets. The people who save manufacturers money, the people who make manufacturers money. So the savings are like the utility audits, the ops audits, the supply chain people, the Lean Six Sigma people. They're finding capital you didn't know you were losing that you can free up and then reinvest into your business without allocating additional budget. Then the group who makes manufacturers money, the fractionals, the marketing, the sales, the rev ops. I'm looking at my bucket and saying, what's my greatest barrier to entry? And the answer was always budget. You're the best, Gina. We know we need you. We want to hire you, but we don't have the budget. We don't have the budget. So I said, how can I overcome that barrier to entry and tell them you don't need the budget? I'll find the budget. I'll find the way to pay for myself. And in the process, it's a cyclical approach where you save money, reinvest it into your business to make money, and you're constantly generating leads and your bottom of funnel never taps out. And so that was an amazing outcome of Lean Six Sigma. I always used to look at myself as just a marketer. There's nothing wrong with that. But then I pulled Lean Six Sigma into my toolbox and I pulled sales. I'm Sandler sales trained with my bronze certification, and I have a year of sales mastery. So I can speak to my sales team. I can speak in their language. So I put all these other tools into my toolbox to try to be a more comprehensive service partner to industrial companies. So When I say turn the frown upside down, basically everything you saw and learned today, I tell people we can take something very complex. We can take a client's pain point, what they identify as their greatest problem, their greatest challenge, my greatest barrier to entry. That was my biggest pain, budget. And we can turn that into a gain. And I did all of that through this lens of Six Sigma and improving processes and overcoming barriers. So this slide is just a summary of everything I said before about the benefits of Lean Six Sigma, all it can do for an organization. I put this in here. It was in a conference presentation I gave before, and I said, I'm just going to leave it in. If anybody here needs help and you need to talk, or somebody in your organization needs help, I am always a sounding board. I have a servant mentality. I believe if I'm authentic, do the right thing, treat people with love and respect, the money will come. And so my goal is to put the best interest of my customers and clients first. If I'm not right for you, I will tell you, but I have a huge network and I know people who do everything, who can help. And one of my greatest satisfactions is putting two people together who can help each other. So please use me as a sounding board or a resource anytime. I'd be happy to hear from you. And I want to open it up now and see if we have any questions. I did a good job presenting all that information in a short time. I promised you I would not take an hour. So question me away. You're stunned, you're speechless.
Well, Gina, first of all, thank you for the presentation, because I think in my past as a finance executive, I maybe provided the funds for marketing, but I never understood it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this presentation certainly helps a little bit more from approach perspective, what is really done, what makes more sense, and at least you can question a couple of things, right? As you're in a discussion with marketing leaders. I also like the approach with the lean in there, because it is a different approach from what we have seen in many, many other ways.
Chris, I so much agree with you. Like the CFOs, the financial team, they're usually the ones who are watching the budget spend and not seeing the return on investment. We spent these agencies, they'll charge $8,000 a month, and what are we getting out of it? And so, I think a lot of times people just see the spend and not the return, and then think they shouldn't make the spend. But oftentimes they're just working with the wrong people. And I even help people with that. Like, I'm not a huge agency. I'm a solopreneur. I'm an individual consultant. I do have subcontractors and service partners that I use, but I'm even happy to help people. Like, I had a client come to me and say, here's what my marketing team is doing. Do you agree or disagree? This is what they're doing with our website. This is where they're building it. This is how they're building it. I didn't charge him. It took me 15 minutes. I looked at it and I said, you've got a good developer. They're doing exactly what I would have done. Exactly. You found a good person. Or if they're not, I'll tell them that they're not. And here's what they should be doing. And maybe ask them about that, challenge them, put them to the metal and make sure that they are giving you what you should be getting out of your contract.
Yeah, I actually have a client at the moment where I pushed more or less the agency out because they were not doing a good job and not providing good metrics. One other thing I maybe wanted to ask is, when you think about, you talked about ROI earlier. For us, always it's like payback, payback, payback. What do you normally see from a payback perspective when you kind of start with a client, from a cost versus benefit perspective? What do you normally see?
That's a great question. I can answer that, but it may not pertain to your size or type of companies. Because historically I'm working with small to mid-sized manufacturers, like I said, 5 to 50 million. And manufacturing is notoriously conservative and oftentimes operating like in the 1950s. They haven't always gotten to the digital age and the tech age. So what I find is I go into engagements and most of them don't even have a CRM. They're still on an Excel spreadsheet. Their website is 20 years old. There's no content. It's outdated. So it depends. What I'm trying to say is it depends on the maturity of their marketing program. and their tech stack. A lot of who I'm working with, they haven't done marketing, or they've done that scattershot approach, like, let's try some blogs, let's pay for some Google ads for 2 months. Let's post on LinkedIn, and nothing's working. So I'm often going in with a foundational strategy. So what I tell those kinds of clients, do not expect a 5 times return on investment your first year of marketing. The first thing we do is we've got to buy and stand up and configure a CRM. That takes time. Then we've got to deal with their horrible, atrocious lists that are purchased, no one's opted in, they're going to report you as spam, you're going to get blacklisted. We've got to clean up the lists, we've got to segment the lists. Once that's all in, then we've usually got to turn to the website and fix it up. It's not optimized on the front and back end. There's no keywords identified. There's no content. You wouldn't want to drive people to a website that's a piece of crap, because what's going to happen is they're just going to bounce. They're not going to see you as an expert. They're not going to fill out the form. You're not going to capture the lead. Then they often don't have social media properties. They're manufacturers. They don't deal with social media. So we often have to get them up and running there. So, and then all the SEO strategy I mentioned, claiming local listings, getting backlinks, that takes time, media relations, press releases, because every press release that's published in a publication is on their digital site as well. That's a backlink to your website. And from an organization that is like a magazine or a publication, they have a lot of high domain authority. They're a trusted resource. So that really helps boost your ranking. So what I usually tell people is the first 6 months is the foundational, create the strategy, do all that groundwork. And then Google takes about 6 to 9 months to rank and index a company through search engine optimization, through SEO. So while that's happening, then we turn to pay-per-click and paid advertising. Then we can do some Facebook ads or Google ads or LinkedIn ads or wherever their company's customers live. So what I usually give is a case study. I had a manufacturer, the exact situation I just described to you. No CRM, no opt-ins, purchase lists. All they were doing was having their salespeople call the lists, had never done marketing. We had to update their website, no social properties. And the other thing that you have to look at with return on investment is, what is your sales cycle? This manufacturer told me when they hired me that their sales cycle was 1.5 years. Okay, if your sales cycle is 1.5 years, then you can't expect a 5 times return on investment from me in 1 year. So I managed to decrease their sales cycle by 2/3 because I did everything I just told you. I turned toward lead generation, which they had committed to $1,500 a month for a Google ad spend, which is the minimum ad spend you should ever do. Anything less than that is a waste of time. It's a waste of money. They backtracked and said they only wanted to spend $500 a month, even though $1,500 was in the contract. I said, 500 doesn't do anything, but okay, my hands are tied. So I did a 3-month, $500 a month Google ad spend, and I got them a sale. And the sale was a few $1,000s more than what I was charging them. And so what I told them is, your first year of marketing was free. You got 15 people for a year at no charge, plus you made a few $1,000s off that sale. I decreased your sales cycle by 2/3 because you said it's 1.5 years. I did it in 2 to 3 months. And then if your sales cycle is 1.5 years, if you continue doing marketing, you're going to see a lot of these leads convert next year, about 6 months later. Sure enough, they did. I was no longer working with that client because I had them when I was with a consulting firm. So I was an employee at a consulting firm. So when I left, I could not take them with me because of a no compete. So they stayed with that consulting firm, but we're still in touch. And you know, they sent me gifts. They sent me a bunch of gifts. They said, you were so right. 6 months later, we sold. What you did foundationally helped us out. And thank you. Thank you for the business you brought us. So I guess that's my long answer, Chris.
No, thank you, Gina. And I need to confirm, right, on the Google ads, one of my clients only wanted to spend $50 a day, roughly between 10 and 11 a.m. in the morning. is basically when the sponsored parts stopped, because all her budget from a daily perspective already was used up. So if somebody searched for her services in the afternoon, she was not on top of the list because of the lower budget. Anybody
Yep.
else with questions? Going once, going twice.
Wait, hold
Apparently,
on.
go ahead. Sorry.
Hey, Gina. Can you hear me?
I can.
Hey, sorry. I can't see myself, so I don't know if you can see me or not, but I'm
I
not sure what's
can't.
going on. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, there you are. Ray.
Okay. Hey, yes. Hi, Ray Cardone. So thank you. That's very, very helpful. I can relate to a lot of what you're saying. My, in hearing you chat through and experiencing a lot of what you talked about from being on kind of the small manufacturing side. Um, and having gone through multiple consultants and we're on the next one now, right? Everything that you talked about, we've experienced. And I actually have a meeting coming up with the individual next week to talk about budgeting and marketing for 2025 and, what his strategy is. And my question for you is, in this space, do you see like at the end, I know you talked at the beginning about this, sales and marketing working together. Do you see like relative spend that marketing is so much relative to sales, like proportionately something that just averages out over time? Like I'm trying to think how I should be addressing this because, like you said, I joined 2 years ago. We didn't have a marketing department. We had a part-time person. We've been spending on outside consultants, gone through a couple of firms, doing
Mhm.
lead gen, and right now, kind of, I would say not really getting anywhere. But I'm sure we have, but right, like the progress that you're talking about, like long sales cycles, like when do you know you should continue to invest that you're still on the right path versus, hey, I need to make a change, like you indicated, right? Like at some point you could just be with the wrong firm or person. Any thoughts on like how to set budgets relative to sales or thoughts on that?
I do. I actually consult with my clients on that, and they don't usually like what I have to say. But this is not because I'm greedy. This is not about me. No matter who people use, I tell people standard, industry standard in if you're looking at not just manufacturing, if you're looking at the entire ecosystem, usually an average marketing budget is usually 5 to 8% of revenue. In manufacturing, because it's a different animal, B2B is so different than B2C, which I don't play in the B2C space. I tell my clients a manufacturer should be spending 3 to 5% of revenue on marketing. With that said, I had one client who is a $33 million manufacturer. I proposed a 12-month marketing program to him. Then I can't do this now. This was a few years ago. 12-month marketing program for $44,000. He would have had me and my entire team. They balked at 44,000. I said, listen, even if you're spending 1% of revenue on marketing, that's still $330,000. You're not even willing to spend $40,000 on marketing. How do you expect to move the dial? I don't walk on water. I'm not a miracle worker. So, that's why in my career being in-house at manufacturers, I've always focused on like the organic search because I never had big budgets. My last manufacturer I was with full-time, my last full-time job, he's actually a client of mine now. I left him in May to start my consulting firm, and he just hired me back as a consultant, and so I'm doing contract work with him. His budget, he was an $8 million manufacturer, and his budget was $15,000 a month for marketing, in addition to salaries. So salaries were
Right.
not counted into that. My
Got it.
budget last year was $15,000 a month for an $8 million manufacturer. And we did some amazing stuff. I mean, that included trade shows. I did a 10-day Google ad campaign for him for $5,000. I spent $5 grand in 10 days and I brought in 35 qualified leads. and the sales team quoted 3/4 of those. So that was a worthwhile spend. His product was a little over $100,000 per item that he manufactured. So if he sold 1 unit at $100,000, my $5,000 spend was a drop in the bucket.
Right. Yeah. The challenge I have is dealing with a lot of the smaller companies where a lot of times they've had sales that have come from referrals, right? Like they've small companies that grew like the space you're talking about. It's like through referrals or networking, repeat customers, like they've grown. And maybe they've reached a steady state with very little marketing spend, right? And now to convince them to go to that next step, like to continue to grow the business, to invest in marketing is a challenge because it's not something that they've historically done, right? Like they're like, I didn't do any I got here without doing any marketing, right? Like, yeah, maybe went to a couple of shows here and there and my website's all like, they really haven't invested in it in the past and they've built a successful business. So now it's like convincing them like, yes, but this is the strategy, this is the investment that's going to take you to the next level. That's
Well, the
to me where it
problem
can be
is the
challenging.
way they've done it, 20 years ago isn't the way it's being done anymore. The landscape has changed. The way companies are doing business has changed. Now everybody who's successful is in the digital space. They have got to own the digital space. Their competitors are getting digital and going into the space. And if they don't stay up to speed with their competitors, they're going to fall behind. And I've had a couple clients like that. They were losing their skin. I mean, they were in automotive. They had 3 big contracts. They lose 1 or 2 of their contracts, they're about to go under. So then they're like, oh, we have to diversify into aerospace. Let's get our ISO certs and do aerospace or do this or do that. And the problem is because they relied on those couple contracts for their bread and butter, and they never bothered to grow their company. The company I just worked for, a good example, they manufacture park model homes. They're basically cottages and cabins built on a chassis with wheels that qualifies them as a recreational vehicle. And they sell B2B. They sell to real estate investors, campgrounds, resorts, parks, veterans housing. When my boss bought the company, it was a $1 to $2 million company. It was a mom and pop shop. They did no marketing. It was the referrals. It was
Right.
the prior clients coming back and they were happy. It was family owned. We're happy. He bought the company and within our first year, he grew the company to 8 million. The second year, he grew to 10 million. So that was through doing marketing, business development, and sales. And we all worked very closely together. We went to a lot of trade shows and I did a lot of marketing. I had a team of 6 people. And they were in the Philippines, granted, so they weren't extremely expensive. I did most of the work. They did the tactical stuff, but we were able to grow the company that much.
That's interesting. So outsourcing, can you just talk to that outsourcing marketing to the Philippines? Because that's not something that's come up. So when you
They
say
don't
doing the
do it.
tactical stuff, like how,
The reason being, I inherited that team. I did not hire them. The Philippines is cheap, but what I can say about my employees, they were incredibly hardworking, very smart, very dedicated, but they are the Philippine mentality is not problem solving, critical thinking, analytical thinking. They basically all were glorified virtual assistants. You tell them exactly what to do and they can do it. But if you ask them to think about it or be creative or problem solve, impossible. And so it was a challenge. I had a tough time. I went through a couple designers and a couple content people and a full stack developer who claimed to be a full stack developer, but he wasn't even really a junior developer, and a guy who claimed to be a Zoho admin who didn't know how to manage Zoho and the CRM. So I would say they're great if you have someone like me who really knows what they're doing and can manage and lead them and give them the very specific guidance that they need in order to execute. But if you're just going to hire 6 people over there and have some kid out of college managing them, nothing's going to get done appropriately. But they are
gotcha.
inexpensive. They cost about, depending on the skill level and the technical experience, I think we were paying them about $800 a month for 40 hours a week of work, like
Wow.
800 to
Okay.
$1,000 a month. But like I said, it was very low level roles, things that kind of, a monkey could do if you gave them the right tools.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
John, you're laughing at me. You look like such a nice, happy, engaged person. I wanted to hear from you. I wish you had a question.
No, I really enjoyed your presentation. Now I have a lot of years of manufacturing experience, but my experience is at the finance level. So when you were throwing out numbers, I'm like, yeah, I totally agree. And so it was just it was funny. And my last company, we dealt with we had Philippine workers, so it was kind of totally it was
Same
funny the way,
experience?
you know, categorizing them.
Yeah, I've worked with people in South America as well. They're a little more creative. India, very technically advanced. You know, you want a developer or you want like a full stack admin, India is the place to go. They've got really good tech skills, but I wouldn't outsource like a whole marketing department. Like little things like my graphic designer, he can do brochures for me. He can do, but part of the problem is I went through multiple designers because they're in Asia. And the Asian design sensibility is very different from the American design sensibility. So I'm getting this like Japanese, you know, pop stuff with bright colors and crazy fonts and, you know, little kawaii characters. And, you know, in manufacturing in the US, it's very clean, it's very professional. And they couldn't make that cultural translation. So I ended up finding a Philippine designer who worked in Dubai for years. And then he also worked for American companies for years. Now he's a great developer or designer, but again, I have to specifically tell him what to do. I have him doing a prospectus for me. I gave him the slides with the data. I gave him the copy, and he couldn't put the two together. It was kind of like, well, here's a draft, Miss Gina. And I'm like, where's the copy? Where's the headlines? Where's the context? All you did was put slides into a PDF. And so I had to give him, you know, 12-step instructions, and now he's redoing it for me. So it does, I feel like a hypocrite because outsourcing overseas causes a lot of rework. I have been doing a lot of rework. So it is not lean.
No, but if you give them all the steps, though, at least you'll get exactly what you need. You know, and that's just the extra level you need to go to. But you know, it is what it is. And then, but then you also, for what you're paying for that, for those workers, kind of you get what you pay for, I guess.
Yeah, definitely true. Well, I
Okay.
think we're heading at the top of the hour. Thank you all. I loved meeting you. It was my honor to be here. Thank you for staying so late and staying through the whole thing with me. And please feel free to connect on LinkedIn or hit me up on my website. And I'd love to keep in touch. I don't try to sell people. I'm not going to come after you. It's just, I love adding people to my network, especially people in manufacturing. It's kind of like a warm blanket wrapped around you, and you have people that understand the language and what you do, and they get you. And I might have a finance question, I might have a budget question, and maybe I could call you and ask you a question, and you could call me and ask me a question. So please become part of my network. I would really value that.